when it comes to the rail chaos problems that we see in the UK, it's not just things like that, we haven't got something like HS2, which improves capacity. It's, we're still using very, very old, in some cases, Victorian level infrastructure as, a railway network. There are other problems as well. There's things like ticketing. People don't realize this. And here's a perfect here's a perfect test for you. Go now to Trainline, one of the UK's biggest websites for buying a rail ticket, and look what it costs to buy a ticket. Now, look which train you're traveling on. Who's the owner? It might be Northern, Southern, etc. Because I found out this quite recently. Go on Trainline, and then I went on Northern to see what that journey is. Turns out, randomly, if I buy it from Northern versus Trainline, I am saving £2 in some cases. Which, bear in mind, if you take the train on a regular basis, a return for me from Barnsley to Sheffield costs around £8. Now, if you think about it, £8 maybe once a week is all right, but for someone like me, I'm now certainly since the pandemic, I'm having to go to more events. I'm having to sort of, more people are sort of wanting to have more in-person conversations. Again, okay, that's fine, but there's now an added cost to that, and those travel costs soon add up. Soon, very, very quickly add up. And trust me, I remember when I used to have my rail card, and there is no rail card I can have access to, which constantly frustrates me until I get to like 60, which is a long way off. But it is frustrating that there is absolutely zero rail cards that I have access to. But today, there is a new call because Labour are renationalising the rails. Now, one of the things that they need to do is look at ticketing. That's one thing they absolutely need to do desperately on that front. But now that they are renationalising the railways, as I've often said, when you come to renationalising, the conversation tends to just stop. Renationalise the railways. Okay, then what? There needs to be a then what. And I've brought this up with multiple people who have said this. If you're going to renationalise the railways, then the campaign needs to start saying, okay, when we renationalise the railways, this is what we are going to do different. This is how we are going to run things. This is, why, you renationalise the railways, because we can do all these things. That conversation doesn't tend to happen quite a lot, which is, again, highly annoying. But I am glad that we have got this, because this is that conversation. Now that Labour are practically renationalising the railways in many of the of these steps, they can now do stuff, and campaigners are calling on this. So you've got this call, which we're going to go over today, calling now for a flat rate card for everyone who uses the rails to try and encourage more rail travel, which we do have a lot of rail travel. Like I say, rail travel is now returning to pre-pandemic levels, but again, cost of the railways, and we've seen railways on purpose go, well, we might just up the cost so that people use railways less because, capacity problems. Oh, the UK railway system is so fun. So fun. But anyway, we're going to get into this because I think this is well worth going over. And I think this is actually a very good solution to a lot of things. I think it's something we very, very do much need. So before we do go into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button if you are new. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button as well, ring the bell too. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So let's go cracking then into this. And thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel as well, that way as well. So here we go into this. Renationalising the railways does not go far enough. Labour should now spur a rail renaissance by allowing people around the UK on limited train travel for a flat fee, campaigners have said. Under a climate card system, passengers could pay a simple subscription to gain access to travel across all services. This could be effective if set at £49 a month, according to research published on Thursday. Although travellers on fast long distance trains and those on routes in and through London would need to pay a top up to reflect the greater demand on those services. A subscription service for rail use? Hell yes. hell yes. 50 quid a month for unlimited travel on the rails if I have to do long distance travel to somewhere else, to like, Manchester, Newcastle, Edinburgh or something like that. Hell yes, I'd do that. Hell yes. It makes so much sense. So much sense to do that. Please implement this. Implement this now, please. If such a system were implemented across the UK, it would obviously likely result in now a loss of revenues to the railways between 45 million and 635 million, of course, depending on the uptake, the report found. This would have to be then subsidized by the government. But transport is already subsidized in various less effective forms. And the report found that the climate card would generate economic growth and improvements to health from lower air pollution. Yes. Please do this. Please do this. Anyway, introducing a flat fare in this way would have the massive benefit of bypassing the UK's Byzantine system of fare structures, which we've just talked about in the beginning of this, in which potential fares currently number around 50 million would make now life easier for both season ticket holders who travel frequently on the same routes, but now less frequent travelers who take a variety of journeys. Greenpeace, which commissioned the study for the not-for-profit transport think tank Greengauge 21, said that the climate card would attract many more passengers to the railways and reduce car journeys, cutting greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. Transport accounts for now a very stubbornly high proportion of the UK's total carbon emissions, in part because of the lack of public transport in many areas outside London and the rapid rise in sales of heavier cars, including SUVs. So, Ken, I can't stress enough. We talk about on this channel so much public transport. Invest in public transport. It is worth every single penny we put into it. Every single penny we put into public transport, we could be doing this. It would be great. So it continues. The saving, of course, to rail users would be substantial. Season ticket holders for Stoke-on-Trent to Manchester pay over £379 a month. And according to additional research by Greenpeace, season ticket holders between Liverpool Lime Street and Manchester Piccadilly over in Victoria cost over £260 a month. Between Leeds and York, that price is £278 a month. Cars on average cost £391 a month to run, and fuel duty has been frozen repeatedly at a cost of £9 billion a year to tax revenues, according to the Institute of Financial Studies. So, again, we subsidize transport so inefficiently, and we could be using those subsidies in better areas across things. Like if we did this, we had this, the climate card stuff that they said, that would be amazing to see on this. So the report called Fair Britannia, published on Thursday, estimated that a climate card covering all the UK nations could generate an additional 122 million rail trips a year, which would save over 40 million car journeys and reduce emissions by about 380,000 tons of carbon. The climate card would, of course, not be compulsory. And of course, other train fares would still be available. But if the experience for other countries is anything to go by, such a scheme would probably prove very popular with users. I've said this again on this channel. Look at Europe. Look at how successful They have tons of different schemes to do with their rail, public transport, etc. Why not just steal some of them? Now, I know that is different because our rail system still set very, very much up for cargo rather than passengers, whereas in Europe it's very um, passenger focused rather than cargo. So that is something, those policies aren't going to necessarily mesh 100% in some cases, but you could make a lot of them work. You could make so much of them work. Um, it's just, a little tinkering in some of these things, and you'd have a very, very good policy for public transport. Paul Monzo, a senior transport campaigner at Greenpeace, said, "Our current rail fare system is far too complicated, confusing, and expensive. It's time to redesign it with now passengers in mind, and a monthly climate card would simplify the ticketing system and would save commuters hundreds of thousands of pounds a month and cut emissions. It is a triple win." Uh, I guarantee you, I know people in Barnsley, they travel to Leeds, they do that every single day to work. If you told them, here's a climate card, cost you £50 a month, hell yes. Hell yes, they'd be on that instantly. It just wouldn't be it'd be a no-brainer. Same for me. I'd jump on this scheme in a heartbeat as well if this came in. And I'm not too surprised if many people watching this would as well. Like I say, if you commute on trains, the cost of what it is between where and you work. It costs you a month, even if you have one of these season tickets, which is meant to save you money. Um, yeah, we know how much it costs a month. And remember, suddenly you might be going from like 200 and let's say between Leeds and York, it's £278 pounds a month down to like 50. That's a massive saving you are making. That is money that can go into other things. It makes so much more sense to sort of look at it like that. It really, really does. The report suggested that the card should be tried out in the north of England first. Yes, please do. Which would then help rebalance the economy and reflect the fact that spending on transport in London is £846 a year, compared to with £349,100 in the north. Jim Steer, the director of Greengauge 21, said, "We suggest it will be best to start in the English regions away from the southeast, which now dominates the national rails uses currently. The next step would then be look for newly fashioned Great British Railways to be given the task of looking into the climate card as a way of boosting regional economies with timescales within the timescale of this parliament. Other countries have introduced similar schemes, which have now tended to be very popular and have shown that significant costs to the public purse. Germany introduced a flat fare of €9 a month, which during the recovery from COVID-19 encouraged people back onto public transport. Though it was widely popular, it cost the government at least 2.5 billion, with which attracted criticism. The ticket was then later replaced by a €49 a month rail pass, which is now still in operation, with a 1.5 billion a year government subsidy. So even if you have to sort of subsidize it, as the report has already said, there are benefits to doing it. There are massive benefits to doing this. It's already said massively improves the economy. Massively improves the economy if you do this. We've talked about this, I don't know how many times, about how rails can do this. Building HS2 pays for itself over time. I don't know how many times we've been over the fact, invest in public transport. It is the best money any government can invest into the UK at the moment. So let's finish it off then. So the National Infrastructure Commission, which highlighted, of course, the poor public transport in UK regions, now act as a brake to economic growth, as we just said. Attracting people to the railways could now bring economic and productivity benefits in return for public investment, the report's authors all argue. The Department of Transport spokesperson said that this government is now committed to encouraging greener ways to travel and improving the state of public transport. That is why we're empowering local leaders to deliver better bus services. Again, true. That is one part of it. Massively one part of it. That should be praised. A lot of people do not praise this enough, but that is having very, very good effects where this has been improved in Manchester, in London as well. But overhauling our railways to put passengers first and simplifying ticketing to deliver better value for money is money when taking the train. Again, I'm glad they are looking into this. I'm glad they are looking into this. Definitely something I would like to see. I think a lot of people, a lot of rail users, a lot of regular rail users would love to see this. Flat fee, 50 quid a month. Hell yes. Hell yes. That would be amazing. That would generally be amazing to have, honestly. Give us that, please give us that. It makes everything worth it. But as always, before we do continue, thank you very much, and of course, we'll see you all next time.